Hello, all of you lovely people. Today is December 1st, and I think you all know what that means. It is officially Christmas time, not literally, but it is the season. Tis the season, what I should have said. I officially started playing Christmas music today. There's quite a few good albums out there, so I certainly recommend that you all follow suit and start to generate some Christmas spirit in your house and throughout the city. Just roll your windows down, crank up some Christmas music, and fly down the road. Totally raising everybody's spirits everywhere. Anyways, I'm totally off topic, but it is December 1st after all. So today, we did have a guest lined up, but unfortunately, they fell through. So Carly and I, along with Mike Payne, decided to stream a little bit about home improvement, more specifically why a new roof should figure into your home improvement budget in 2023. So before we get into all that, I will first give a bit of a hint for the mystery phrase. Today we're looking for a phrase and not just a single word. The hint will be... what should the hint be? Let's just say the hint definitely pertains to home improvement. So, moving forward, what we're going to talk about, as I said, is why a new roof should figure into your budget, and more importantly, why you should consider having your roof inspected or even repaired before anything else on your property. So obviously, the roof is an extremely important part of the property, if not the most important. I know different tradesmen might disagree, but if your roof is leaking, any other improvements that you will make throughout the home can certainly be compromised if you have an extreme leak or if you have any major condensation or anything like that inside the attic space. So I would say that obviously having the roof looked at first and foremost, and if not repaired, would be, I think, maybe the first thing on the bucket list when it came to home repairs. So I think what I'm going to do is pass it off to Carly, and maybe you can fathom a few questions, if you want to put it that way, to kind of help move this conversation forward. Yeah, this is all super last minute as well. We just decided to, stream at least something for everybody and provide some insight, again, as to why a new roof should figure into your budget for the coming year. So.
Oh, there we go. We're on camera. I'm not used to be on camera yet. Okay, well, my first question for you you might have already answered it, so you could expand, is why should roof and attic inspections come before other basic home renovations?
Of course. So yeah, like I said, the roof itself is the first and foremost safeguard against damage throughout the entire property. Obviously, if you have any damaged ventilation units, you could have damaged goosenecks, you could have missing shingles, the roof could have even been installed with a lack of underlayments. All of these different things could obviously create issues, or at least begin to create issues in the attic space. So obviously, if you have a damaged vent or something like that, a lot of snow melt or even heavy rainfall could cause a large leak inside the attic space, which most people wouldn't typically notice until it's too late, because obviously the insulation will absorb a lot of that moisture or water before you notice staining on the ceiling. But obviously it wouldn't be really noticeable until it's visible on the ceiling, and at that point there could be a lot of other damage inside the attic space. For example, staining inside the attic, on the trusses themselves, or on the decking, on the roof. There could be rot. There could be lots of things before you finally actually see that inside the home on the ceiling itself. So obviously looking at the vents themselves, that being air intake vents if you have any, and exhaust vents on the uppermost peak of the roof. We'd be looking for goosenecks as well, the bathroom fan exhaust units. Some places have powered exhaust units, things like that, which most of them are made from like a polypropylene plastic, which is prone to cracking over time. Most of them are fairly hail resistant, and they are, good up to about negative 40 degrees during install. So a lot of these different fixtures could be prone to cracking or heavy hail damage if if the installation was poor, or if your house is facing, say, the wrong part of the city, or if it's facing more hill-prone directions like the west, for example, considering all the mountains that we have. But yeah, leaking because of damaged vents is definitely one potential. I mentioned blown off shingles as well. There's a lot of potential there for leak as well. There's mold also that can form inside the attic if any leaks are current or if they go unaddressed. So, I mean, mold is another big issue that we face. Ventilation itself also is a major cause. So there's a whole wide variety of things that you should certainly consider looking into before you consider any other home improvements.
Very nice answer there.
Yeah, no, it's a bit of a scattered answer, but
It's okay.
it's a bit of a scattered day, I guess we could say.
Okay, well, getting to like every homeowner's like most important focus with getting a new roof is the financial impact. So what kind of savings can be reached with getting a new roof first before you do these other things?
Well, I mean, there are savings in terms of, say, eliminating potential damage that could result from a poor roof install or any damage that is currently on the roof itself. For example, if you were to have an inspection done, they might notice blown off shingles, like I mentioned, or damaged vents, which could lead to interior damages because of leaking. There could also be a lack of ventilation in terms of air intake or exhaust, which could lead to elevated condensation issues inside the attic, which also could cause damage in the long run, or attic rain when we have plus temperatures. So clearly, if you choose to do these repairs or even have a full roof replacement before anything else, you could essentially save money in the long run from having to, say, repaint the ceiling or reinstall other areas of the house, like trim around the floorboards even. I've noticed in some cases heavy condensation inside the attic has actually worked its way into the sidewalls on the upper floors and expanded the baseboards in certain rooms. So if you consider to move forward with, say, a roof and attic inspection and or repairs before anything else, you could certainly save yourself a lot of money fixing damage inside the home at a later date if these issues with the roof or attic go unaddressed. There are other things inside the attic that certainly play a big part as well. Insulation is a pretty large thing. With no pane roofing at least, during our roof inspections, which typically go along with attic inspections as well, we'll take a look at insulation levels. Insulation levels play a big part in terms of condensation control or management. So basically, during most of my inspections, I'll notice an inadequate amount of insulation. The biggest issue with that essentially is that the heat from inside the home can radiate into the ceiling and the upper floor. And if you have very low amounts of insulation, that heat can pass through the insulation, although it's a small amount. That small amount of heat can interact with the cold air inside the attic space and in turn create a lot of condensation in the attic space. So again, attic rain is a big problem in Calgary, among other areas. But if it goes unresolved, a lot of that attic rain will obviously increase moisture levels, humidity levels inside the attic, which can create a host of issues. It could create a lot of rot in the plywood, in the trusses. It can create a lot of mold in certain areas. I typically find a lot of mold on the insulation itself or underneath the insulation on the vapor barrier. It's also important during these inspections to look at the vapor barrier in some areas, because there could be rips in the vapor barrier which could allow for even more warmth and even humidity inside certain rooms to more easily access the attic space. But to boil down what I was getting at, insulation levels are also a big player in terms of protecting the home from future damage. But in this case, the question pertains more to savings, of course, and if you have adequate insulation levels, you would actually spend a lot less money in terms of electricity and natural gas to heat the home, because if you have insufficient amounts of insulation, a lot of that heat, more of that heat, can transfer into the attic space. In other words, it's easy to put that if the home isn't insulated properly, your furnace is going to have to work overtime in order to heat the house adequately. So you will save money in the long run if you were to address a lack of insulation, top up the insulation, and in turn save a lot of money in heating costs. There are also other types of savings that are offered to other homeowners. I'm not sure of exactly how it works exactly, but there are certain rebates that go along with upgrading your insulation levels. I don't remember the extent of the savings, but there are certain rebates, as I said, that are available to homeowners if you were to upgrade certain elements of the home, like, say, old windows or upgrade insulation levels in the home, things like this.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Okay, so next one is why would you choose no pain for doing things like this? Why do you think we're a good choice to go through the process of getting a new roof or dealing with these issues, inspections and such?
Why no pain would be the best choice? Well, first and foremost, no pain operates fully in-house, so that means no subcontracting. We don't have any outliers. We don't have any third parties. Everybody is in-house. Everybody is certified no pain roofing. So you're not going to get any unknown. You're not going to get any shady workers. You're going to have everybody who is on site, part of the no pain family, in other words. So we have a quality assurance essentially that we extend to clients, and obviously all of the no pain employees go through basic training and extended training in certain other ways, like, for example, installation top-ups, HVAC replacements. There's a lot of different things that we need to cover, and everybody who works in-house with no pain roofing certainly goes through training ringer, we'll say, in order to provide the kind of quality that we stand by. So obviously, first and foremost, everything is in-house, which is super important in our opinion, because there's a lot of horror stories out there about third-party installers, third-party crews that could come by on behalf of another company and either do an extremely poor job, or just, there's a lot of different things that can go wrong, in other words, and keeping everything in-house can certainly allow for a certain level of control in those areas. So that's one benefit. Another thing, we are certainly competitive in our pricing. We like to bid what we think we are worth in one way, I guess. So there are some other companies that you might find that have cheaper quotes, but others that are obviously more expensive. But having competitive pricing is super important. So we are reasonable, of course. And again, quality over quantity is a slogan of ours. So obviously providing the utmost perfection, if we can, dare I say that word, but providing top-notch quality in all of our installs and all of our interactions with clients and customers. We certainly stand by the prices that we offer, and so I think competitive pricing is another big part of that. Other benefits, well, all of our roofers, if you are doing a full roof replacement, are certified certainteed shingle installers. So there is a shingle course, master shingler course, that our employees will go through in order to be certified by certainteed for the installation of their product. And there are some other companies that claim to be certified certainteed product installers, although they might not have their certifications visible to clients either via their website or even, say, paperwork on hand. But that's something that we stand by also. Something that we find very important is to be sure that all of our shinglers are certified in the products that we install. So that is another super big player in this. Of course, we do install a variety of products. We install rubber roofing systems, EuroShield, that's actually manufactured in Calgary itself. We also do, what's the word? Well, asphalt shingle obviously is important. We have some flat roofing capabilities as well. There is a wide variety of products, but we are certainly very sure to be fully certified in the installation of these products. So I think that is another major benefit. Can you list any?
I think you got them all covered.
Yeah, those are the big ones.
You're good, yeah.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
I don't know, I would say just personal experience, our last consultation we had together, we do go through every step very thoroughly.
Right.
A lot of people do shop around for roof quotes, which obviously you should get many, but this last homeowner we went to, lovely lady, she had other roofers coming out later that week, but she ended up canceling those appointments, telling us that you and I had been thorough and so honest and told her more than she ever knew about her attic space, so she went with us.
Right. So, yeah, I guess what you're getting at to an extent is that we are extremely thorough in our inspections and thorough during our consultations with clients, of course.
Yeah, we're not going to throw just a big bunch of roofing terminology words at you. I do know I've had homeowners tell me about how they've had companies come and they do use all the roofing lingo and everything like that, but I could see it being as a method to confuse them to think they have all these big things wrong with their roof. And I could see that working as a sales tactic with some homeowners. They think, okay, big roofing word, you get that fixed. But I've actually heard from many homeowners the appreciation of using the lingo that they'd understand. You could say normie lingo.
Yeah, of course. It's pretty easy to confuse clients if you're too elaborate. That was something that I struggled with, I guess, in the early phases when I first started doing inspections
Still
for the company.
sometimes you'll come and do an inspection with me and then you'll leave and I'm like, hey, this is what he meant, because you're like using these big fancy words, and as somebody who hasn't been roofing as long as you guys, I'm like, okay, I would not have known what that meant 6 months ago kind of process. But I don't know, we try to be on the same level with the homeowner, which I like very much. So.
Right. You don't want to oversimplify, but you want to use the kind of dialogue that is easily digestible or understood.
Yeah, I just
Because,
say we're
yeah,
a very
it can be-
personable company. We want to get on your level and not make anybody feel silly or uneducated on their own roof.
Yeah, of course. But I
It
get
seems little, but
I
it's
get
big.
stuck in trying to be as descriptive as possible, but not everybody is interested in that approach. Some people just want to know the problem and how to fix it.
Exactly.
And I maybe get too
I'm
philosophical.
one of those people.
Yeah, I get too philosophical with the clients sometimes with some of the issues that I find. But I guess coming back to the question itself, yeah, that was or is an important aspect. I think that is something that separates us from some of our competition because, as you said, some clients have been extremely grateful in our approach to our inspections and our consultations. So obviously you have all the expertise necessary in the field of consultations in order to properly iterate the cost of the project to the client. Of course, no hidden fees is extremely important, right? And making every part of the procedure crystal clear to the clients and what have you. So, yeah, that's important. And most companies, as far as I can tell, with a lot of the consults that I have accompanied you in, most companies aren't doing attic inspections during consultations. Mm-hmm. So that is another reason why I think no pain would certainly be the right choice in terms of looking towards having repairs or a full re-roof done on your property, because rest assured we will certainly or most often find hidden issues that most other roofing companies won't actually find purely through an exterior roof inspection. So obviously an attic inspection along with the consultation is important because from that perspective we can look at insulation levels, whether or not they're adequate. We can look at the vapor barrier itself, make sure there's no rips or tears in areas where it would be prominent. We'd be looking at bath fan fixtures as well, looking at the HVAC system there to be sure that we have airtight systems. Most of the time it's not an airtight system, considering most of these homes are cookie cutter homes, or where you'll have a big home builder company doing 3 or 4 different designs repeatedly throughout the neighborhood. And in that case, they typically go for the cheapest products available in terms of, say, exhaust vents and bathroom exhaust vents like goosenecks and things. And during inspections, we typically find that these systems are less than airtight, or they are prone to problems down the road, only because, again, they chose the cheapest products available to them. So
Yeah, I always say, like, I know Mike said, if you have to educate a homeowner on what's going on in your attic, why would you trust them on your roof, you know?
yeah, of course. Because a lot of companies also will, say, have to replace plywood during the re-roof process, things like that. And they might notice a handful of things that need to be addressed or things that could be problematic, and then all of a sudden they're throwing additional costs at the client as well.
Yeah, those result in hidden damages or additional costs. So I do like that no pain roofing. We give you that big scary number at the end of your first meeting. Obviously there's exceptions such as like hidden attic spaces, everything like that,
Right.
but everyone's fully aware of the potential costs that do come along with these hidden attic spaces and everything like that. So
Yeah, of course.
I don't know. That's a big plus in my opinion as someone who loves to save money and
Yeah,
get
of
everything done right.
yeah, of course,
Know
it's-
the cost up front.
It's better to have like a big number thrown at you and see that number get smaller and smaller over time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But for us to do a thorough inspection first and foremost and give you an idea of what the cost is going to be is super important, because we've had other clients, as you've said, talk to us about these other roofers they've had or friends that have had their roof done, and things got more and more expensive because they started to find more and more problems that they were opting to fix. But we certainly separate ourselves from the competition by doing upfront inspections before we get started on anything. Because as I said, bathroom fan fixtures, insulation levels, vapor barrier. Sometimes there's fancy pot lights on the upper floors of the home as well, which typically are the older style bulb style pot lights, which just radiate a whole lot of heat into the attic space. If those are not sealed well, or if they don't have any polyplastic covers on them, that'll just add to the heat that's entering the attic space. And throughout the winter months, of course, that could be a major contributor to condensation issues. So yeah, upfront inspections are super important. Yeah.
My last question here, you kind of already answered it, so I think we'll switch to a different one off the top of my head. Is just winter roofing for you. Like, I know I am always terrified to see squirrels and such. We have homeowners saying, oh, I've heard scratching up there. I know that's my biggest fear going into a winter attic, is that I'll come face to face with an animal. I'm wondering what your biggest winter fear is, besides falling off a roof. Just randomly, what's your biggest fear?
Well, if I were to decipher your question, there are a lot of times critters inside the attic space, whether it be summer or winter. I don't think that's a winter-specific thing, but maybe the squirrels are a little bit bigger in the wintertime.
They like to be warm, so they nest in your attic in the winter.
Right, that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah.
I do find them year-round, but come to think of it, I think that is more common throughout the winter to get calls like that. I'm always fascinated by it. I'm never really worried about running into whatever creature I tend to run into inside the attic space. I've yet to be attacked, luckily. I guess maybe the biggest fear there would be feces and stuff like that, crawling through the insulation and stuff and not being able to see it sometimes and sticking my hand in it and things like that. Or, I mean, I always have my respirator with me, luckily, but, breathing and stuff like that can be dangerous. But I mean, if you want to, if I just take your question at face value and say my biggest fear in the winter is obviously falling off the roof again, because I'm coming up on the 3-year anniversary in.
That's in 4 days.
4 days to be the 3-year anniversary of my my big slip and fall. But obviously, making that mistake again would be a fear of mine. But I'm not scared. I mean, I have that within my control, just as I did the first time. So it's not this unknown or this uncontrollable circumstance that I fear might happen again.
It's not controllable to an extent, and that's why another thing, circling back to benefits, is we have all of our insurances in place, all that stuff, which is really important for winter roofing. Obviously, no homeowner wants to be liable if someone splats on their driveway and goes breaking their legs or something like that. So that's another advantage, as we always do. We carry all of our insurances with us. No shame in showing you the insurances, the whole shebang like that. Yeah, that's that.
Yeah, of course. Having everybody certified in have their fall arrest certification, of course, and doing periodic or daily checks on their safety equipment to make sure that that kind of thing never happens again. It's obviously important. I do see a lot of roofing crews around the city, typically in the summer when most companies are up and running. I see a lot of people without harnesses, without fall arrest equipment. So yeah, you can be rest assured that we take safety extremely seriously. We took safety seriously before my accident as well, as you can learn about in past episodes of the podcast. So that was just complacency on my part.
SHIG happens as well.
Yeah. You're right about that.
So that's why you have insurance. Stuff happens, nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, no, of course. But yeah, we are fully insured. Each member of the company is, and if there were to be any issues on the job site, there is certainly no worry on behalf of the client in that case. Of course, you'd be worried for the safety of the person if they were involved in an accident, but we certainly are covered in a way that's important. Of course, we're kind of just jumping around, remembering different things. Again, this was a super last-minute impromptu discussion, so I didn't really have a lot of time to write down all my notes and everything else and address every one of these questions in the way that I would have liked to. But we're hoping that we can get across some of these points adequately. Another thing, actually, that I had mentioned or forgot to mention earlier, just about reasons why you should consider having a roof, your roof looked at before any other interior designs or anything else is done.
I think that was the first topic we went over.
That was. I'm just thinking of other points here that I didn't mention. I was gonna go into ice damming. Actually, also is another thing that can cause issues if the cause of ice damming isn't addressed in the early stages. So essentially, ventilation is extremely important. as well as insulation more primarily.
Sorry.
You should probably put your phone on silent.
Sorry.
Just because that's the third time now.
I'm sorry.
Goodness gracious, that's okay. Anyways, ice damming can also create a lot of interior damage, can allow for a lot of leaking, more specifically towards the eve ends of the home. But in terms of ice damming, adequate ventilation is obviously extremely important in order to expel heat that is entering the attic space. Even if you have adequate insulation amounts, small amounts of heat can still enter the attic space, but that's where ventilation comes in. Fresh air coming in and adequate exhaust will pull heat out and prevent ice damming. Although that is not the major cause, actually the biggest cause in ice damming plays into the insulation itself. In some cases, the insulation is packed extremely tight to the roof decking. So in other words, if the insulation is extremely, if you have adequate or extremely adequate amounts of insulation towards the eave ends and you don't have any insulation baffles, you can sometimes have insulation come into contact with the underside of the roof decking itself. So in that case, heat that will radiate from the ceiling can actually transfer through the insulation and heat the underside of the roof decking itself, which obviously that heat transfer would just allow for a lot of ice to build up on the eave ends. So making sure that you don't have too much insulation or that you have no contact with the underside of the roof decking is important. But also a lack of insulation can have the same effect, because if ventilation is poor and insulation levels are low, you can have a lot of heat radiate into the attic space. And if there is not enough ventilation to expel that heat, you'd have the same effect. A lot of heat would obviously warm up the underside of the roof decking, in turn the shingles, and in that case any snow on the roof can melt and freeze and create these large ice dams. So having that remedied before moving forward with any other interior repairs would be certainly important, because ice damming can cause interior damage over time. One point that I had missed earlier.
Well, thank you, Brody.
Yes, of course. There's a lot of different things, but just try to provide as much information as possible.
Well, you've surely educated us all on winter roofing, I'd say to the best of your abilities.
Sure, winter roofing, yeah, or why it's important to figure in roof replacement, of course, in the coming year.
I know we're running out of time here, so one more question to circle to. I'd say in talking about winter roofing, just product specifications, kind of like install regulations when it comes to winter. Not specifically which shingles or what, but why do you think that's something important to focus on?
Yes, of course. Right, that's a good question. So it is important to consider the installation specifications of different products, because it can in turn actually, here goes, my phone's going off now too.
Hypocrite.
I spoke too soon, didn't I? Installation specifications extremely important to follow, because it can actually void manufacturer warranties if the install is done outside of the recommended installation specification or installation temperature window, in other words. So for example, I mentioned the EuroShield rubber shingles that we install. They're more panels than shingles, but for example, they cannot be installed in temperatures less than -10 degrees. Reason being that they can get extremely cold and in turn become slightly brittle. So even though you could have your roofing nailer set to the shallowest depth with the nails, there is still a large chance that you can have internal cracking inside the panel when the nail is driven. It could even split in some ways. So I think it's more so just the chance of causing damage to the product during install if it's too cold. So that applies to the EuroShield product. But the same would apply to asphalt shingles. This is something I know from experience. With asphalt shingles, I'm sure there are slight differences when it comes to shingle manufacturers, but the same kind of rule applies. If it's too cold, the asphalt itself can be practically frozen. And even if you have your PSI levels at lower levels with your compressor, and the depth of the nail itself is set to extremely shallow depth, it'll still blow through the shingle, because the shingle is essentially frozen. It'll just crack and blow holes right in the shingle. So most manufacturers will disallow installation in sub-zero temperatures for that reason, and that's reason enough to void warranty. And so I'd certainly be certain of, or in other words, I'd certainly look into the specifications of whatever type roof product you're having installed, just to be sure that the crew that is doing the installation is working within these specifications. just in hopes that they will not void the warranty of the product themselves, because roofing crew that isn't aware of these specifications would have to pay a pretty penny in the end if there were issues with the install and they needed to do a replacement, and if the manufacturer chooses to not honor the warranty because of the installation outside of the installation specifications, that's enough to put a business under if they have to pay out of pocket like that to obviously replace a roof or do these types of repairs. So again, yeah, sub-zero temperatures can be extremely problematic for most products.
I know our certainteed warranty is pretty good with that. We're pretty protected when it comes to cold weather, which is nice.
Of course, every company should certainly be mindful of the exterior temperature. Of course, like I think right now in Calgary, it's like close to negative 25 with a wind chill, I think, and for that reason, that's why most of our crews today aren't installing because of.
Are installing.
Are they? Some.
Yes, they are.
I wasn't sure of that.
It does meet specifications, so we are all good.
Depends on, as Carly said before, there are different specifications for different manufacturers. And of course, considering the impromptu topic, I was unable to actually.
We will not void your warranty.
Yeah, well, no pain. It's important to know that no pain will certainly be sure to look into these things and be sure to install it inside allowable temperatures in order to maintain the warranty that the manufacturer provides. So.
Okay, great. Well, we are hitting that 30-minute mark, so I think it's time
Yeah,
to wrap
right.
this up so we can get back in that cold and get back to work.
Yeah, we'll do that. Well, better to stream than to not stream, so we thought it'd be a good idea to go through with it and, just try to touch base on a few topics. I appreciate Carly being here to help me through it and kind of prompt some discussion, because
I'd be so lost.
I'd be so lost. I mean, yeah.
I'm your hero.
To have a guest not show up like that last minute, and I mean, yeah, you could just cancel the stream, or you can stream and you can just try to provide information. And of course, I think that was the right choice to make. So, anyways, thank you, Carly, for being here. Daniel's also in the house again, taking photos, of course, as always. And we thank you guys for tuning in. For anybody who is still interested in guessing the mystery phrase today, feel free to leave your guesses in the comment section. And if you win, or if you guess correctly, you'll have a chance to win $500 cash. If not cash, you'll have a chance to walk home with a bunch of cool different prizes. We have Bluetooth speakers, we have picnic backpacks, barbecue accessory kits, charcuterie kits, I think it's cutting board and cutlery, all that cool stuff, blankets. We have a lot of cool stuff. Anyways, thank you for being here with us, and we will be live again next Thursday with a more legitimate topic, we could say. And
Marriage advice.
Marriage advice.
We're the last people to give that, actually.
Sure. Well, hey, we're early into it. We're pretty early into it, so I mean, maybe a decade from now we'll have some better advice for everybody.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyways, spread love. Merry Christmas, and we'll see you next week, everybody. Take care.